This is one of the things that I think often like goes super unnoticed, but as a foundational piece to what makes a good instructor, like a really good instructor, and what makes that particular instructor like work with a lot of different individuals, right? So there's this balance of like the amount of information that you obtain and the amount of information that you can like relay to people, but the multitude of different approaches and different ways that you can then relay that type of information, right? So the best example of this that I can explain, especially in the industry of baseball and in the industry of pitching mechanics, is like, can you take these concepts, right? So can you take these like mechanical concepts, which oftentimes, as we know, can kind of get, complex, even though we try to simplify, right? But can we take these concepts and can we then teach it to a 10-year-old? And can we teach it to a 10-year big league veteran and still have it make sense, right? I don't think there's any type of like instructional like skill or approach that best suits this type of ability to relay and translate information, rather than just life and not life experience, but like rather than experience with hands-on instruction to a bunch of different individuals, right? So when I first started doing in-person stuff, like I'll be completely honest, like I didn't want to do lessons like with like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, because me growing up, like I didn't need that. And I felt like it would only do more harm than good. But what I realized from the instructional standpoint was like how much it benefited me to be able to take these concepts and, have all of this like over complexity and then find a way to adjust the terminology, the verbiage, or like a cue, a specific type of feedback to then relay that to a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old, and then him go, oh, that makes sense, right? Because the biggest piece, obviously we're going to be touching on so much concepts and so much like mechanical stuff throughout this book. The biggest piece for me that I want you guys to take away is having the ability to consume, obtain, grow, but then find different approaches or different methods, different ways to then relay that information. Because here's the thing, man, like we know that everyone throws differently, but also everyone thinks differently. Everyone like comprehends words and information extremely like different. So for us, man, like our biggest goal is like, can I take this piece of information and can I teach it 3, 4, 5 different ways, and even do like, can I adjust on the fly if it's still not making sense, right? And then having like, we talk about like tools in the toolbox, right? So when you do go into like the field and you start like approaching different individuals and different kind of task or whatever the case may be, you're equipped with like a ton of different weapons, right? Like a ton of different tools to attack a particular situation, right? So hopefully like, my job and what I tried to accomplish throughout all of this stuff that you're going to see in this book in regards to like the mechanical concepts and the instruction behind it is like, yes, it's a set of information that I personally believe, works, but also there's multiple ways that I could approach the teaching and the instruction aspect of that one set thing, right? So obviously this stuff is a lot easier and more efficient when we're hands-on, because we can kind of like, adjust the feedback that we're giving these athletes or whatever. But when we're doing remotely, you just gotta, at least what I've found is like find ways to, teach one thing 3 different types of ways, just in case that one way that you already taught it didn't make sense. And then in terms of terminology, I try to do a good job throughout this book of like, all right, if I have a word that isn't like a popular word, I try to do a good job of like explaining what that means. So in regards to like what anchor point is, right? So like the timing in which that front foot is anchored into the ground, right? You can also say anchor point for the drive foot as well. And then even drive foot, drive leg, it's the back leg, glove side, obviously the front side, trunk, pelvis. I try to do a good job of all of that understanding. But if there is anything that I talk about that I highlight throughout this book, there's my email address is on here, so you can reach out if something doesn't make sense, but hopefully the terminology is precise. Okay. Yeah, that's what I got. So at the end of the day, I would encourage you with understand this information so well that you have multiple ways of going about teaching it, right? All right. Much love, guys.